popular Will and Jada Red Table Talk, or should I say Jada and Will Red Table Talk? I probably should go that way. It's hers.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, not getting with her versus beef with him. So Jada's Red Table Talk, Jada and Will. So we're gonna be discussing that tonight. A lot of y'all have probably seen it. Probably got some good lessons, messages from it, and so we want to make sure that we definitely lift those up, and then also give some critique too, because it's a learning lesson for everybody. So thanks again for tuning in. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I see Facebook is in the house.
We see you, and I see y'all dropping where y'all are from. Keep repping and letting us know where you're coming from. Charlicia is out of Hampton, Virginia, and Misha, oh hey sis, and she's tuning in from California. Brian, I see you.
Brian?
I see you. And so, many of you have, as my husband said, why this brother always looking at me like, don't touch the music.
Don't touch the music.
That's
just
your
ride
area.
with the beat.
I'm riding with it.
Ride with the beat.
I'm riding with it. But again, many of you, I'm sure, have heard about Red Table Talk. And Red Table Talk is produced, and so there was a two-part series or two-part, situation with her having her husband on. And I saw a lot of stuff going around on social media talking about how fabulous it was and how great it was. And, they are couple goals, relationship goals. They just, the transparency, the realness, blah, blah, blah was so great. And then I heard folks like, nah, not really. Like, what's up with some of that stuff? And y'all drinking the Kool-Aid. And so there's all kinds of perspectives. And I want us tonight here on Facebook and Relationship Thursdays. You know how we do. If you're joining us for the first time, we drop knowledge. But it's not just us. It's everybody on. We're all kind of exchanging and thinking about what we are talking about, what we're seeing, and what we can take away. We want to separate out all the good stuff, take the meat, leave the bones. And that stuff that we're not sure about, the gristle, you just chew on that for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And say, So again, if you're joining us tonight, we're talking about Will and Jada and their Red Table Talk. We want you to please share this video so that others can also hop on and can view it at some point. I want to just say hey to Rhonda, and I want to say hey to Danbury, I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, out of Colorado. My sis Renee is on watching. Nakia coming from Mississippi. All right. Dallas, Texas is in the house. Ohio, Arkansas. Yes, all these good places. So, again,
what?
You're always going to tell my stuff. I don't feel like you're with me.
I'm with you, baby.
Okay.
I'm right here with you.
Okay.
But I am doing some other things, though, but I'm right here with you.
Okay. So, for those, again, who are just joining us, my name is Iana Ma'at.
And my name is Ayize Ma'at.
We are married. We have been together for a long time. We are high school sweethearts. We got 5 kids. We do couples counseling together. But the thing that we feel gives us the most credit is that we got street cred.
We got street
cred. Because we do this marriage thing every day. And we deal with our relationship and try to be about what we talk about, and we're not perfect. We come every Thursday to talk about something that's related to growing, overcoming, getting to the next level in your relationship, the one you got or the one to come. I see you, Cincinnati, in the house, and New York City representing on Facebook. We see y'all. Again, share this video, share it. Can you love it? Can you like it? Something so that
I must say this though. I always got to put out this disclaimer. I'm sorry, man. Hey, even though we are licensed therapists, this ain't therapy, y'all. Again, this is information, good entertainment, some enlightenment, and some infotainment for you. So please enjoy, please sit back, please like, please comment, please share, and we're about to start it and jump right into this Red Table Talk. What were your initial impressions?
Yeah, my initial impressions.
I
wasn't watching it. Like some people watch that thing faithfully. And so I just kept getting so much energy. People were sending us emails. I would see people and they're like, y'all need to do, Facebook Live on this Red Table Talk. And what did you think? And people were talking about it at the water and talking about it at church. And I was like, okay, let me take a take a look. And my initial impressions, I was captivated.
You were captivated?
I was captivated. And I want to know what everybody here, what your feelings were when you saw it. Did you say, oh, like, wow, they just, they're keeping it 100. I felt good. Give me some words. Can y'all just drop some words in terms of your overall impression? If you did see Will and Jada in their 2-part interview where they talked about their relationship and their marriage. Obviously, they're known in at least the United States of America. No, for real, all over the world, I'm sure. As a power couple, right? They're successful. I like how Will, oftentimes when he was talking, would say, in the exterior world, this is what I was doing, right? He was able to separate out what's happening outside is not always what's happening on the inside, right? So in the exterior world, they are very successful, and they have the look and they got it going on. And I just was really, I'm always a fan of anybody who's saying the truth, whatever their truth is, even if I think their truth is a little shiesty, or I'm not really sure, are you really coming all the way correct? If you're attempting to have the conversation or to share in a way where I can listen and see something in what you're saying that resonates with me, or that I think other people can pick up for, I'm for it, And some people are saying that's all contrived, and they're trying to get views, and they're very manipulative because they're falling out of grace and they don't have as much star power. I've seen that online. I don't care about none of that. At the end of the day, whatever is whatever. I think that it was valuable, but at the same time, I was deeply disturbed. Well, yeah. So I know y'all what you mean? You were just slicing it up and then you say you're disturbed. I was. There was a lot that was said that was good. But then I got deeply disturbed. I was like, oh my, what in the world? We do have to come on. We do need to talk about this thing. And I want to hear from you all this evening, so that as we go through and highlight some of the points that they were talking about, and then give you some perspective from our perspective, and some of our perspectives may even be different on this. I want to hear from you all, because I think we have to be able to see the full picture, to see the whole picture.
Yes. And it's not even really possible to see the whole picture from our vantage point. I mean, they definitely have a perspective.
They gave a lot, but
and they did give a lot, but it's important for us to recognize that they only give what they're willing to give. We only see what they allow us to see. And so as transparent as they were, there's still some pieces that were left out that are not meant for us. And that's absolutely okay. That's the way it should be. Everything shouldn't be for everybody. If you find yourself in your marriage and your relationship and you're just an open book, and you just pour everything out, then that's a problem, because again, there should be something that's sacred just between the two of you. And so with them, they were very transparent, and I appreciate that. But let me tell you my initial impression.
Oh yeah.
My initial impression was I was kind of hating a little bit.
I know you was.
I know you was. I was hating, and I was hating from the onset.
From the onset though?
Yeah, and but I didn't maintain that hate though.
Okay.
I mean, from the beginning, I felt like Will was doing his shtick. He was being Will in the beginning. I felt like you saw some elements of discomfort. You saw some elements of him being in an unfamiliar space. But I saw him also too trying to control that space, which is the thing that they were talking about.
I did see that.
Which is what they were talking about in this show and what they had to overcome in their relationship. And so for him to be doing it in the beginning of the show, to me, now we all are human.
You have to define what you mean by he was trying to control the space.
So
I don't even think it's conscious. I think it's a part of his
it's a part of his
personality and all that.
Yeah, it's a part of who he is. But again, this is her show. This is her show, and at the same time, too, it's important that while we are attempting to experience them on another level and see some transparency in a relationship, it's critical that you don't show up the way you usually show up, that you actually show up differently. So to speak it and to talk it and to say that this is the transformation and the change that you've experienced, but when you're confronted with the opportunity to humble yourself, but yet you still show up as though you got everything together and that you're in control and you're controlling the narrative, even in the conversation.
Well, he was talking about how he was jacked up. He wasn't saying that he had it all together. I'm talking about
in the beginning. So in the beginning, it was a situation where he was trying to set the stage and set the tone, almost to say that
that's the
I got it together now. Yeah, that's the energy that I felt. And what we come to learn at the end of their second part is that really Jada is saying that, I mean, we just about got it together now.
Just within the last year.
Yeah, but she first said that, pretty much like right now, we're getting it together. And so he said, and then Willow said within the past year. So my initial impression was like, I know relationships are a process because we're in one, but I also know it too because we work with couples and we see couples who are loving on each other one minute hating each other the next, have experienced a radical shift, at least so they believe. And then the next week, they hating on each other again. And so
it's a process.
It's really a process. And so we'll get there at the end of this discussion.
So let's get started. Let's move down the things. What I did is I wrote down things that were a highlight to me. And I think that, I just wanted to say yay to, like, yes, that was good. Say, wait a minute, let's think about this a little bit more. But I will say that most of it I thought was good. I just got disturbed at the end. And so I'll come to that in a moment. All right. Again, if you
like over here on YouTube, Shirley is saying that I don't believe that they have that much transparency, even amongst one another. And so again, some of y'all may feel just like Shirley does, like they really wasn't transparent, even in the course of that conversation.
We have a troll on here. So the first one is was kind of funny troll. So the first thing I wrote down is that Jada talked about when they met. And they finally got to a place where he was able to hit her up and call her, right? That, he called her up and was like, you with somebody or whatever. I can't remember exactly. And she said, no. He said, oh, well, you're dating me now, right? And then, she eventually came and flew out to see him. She was living in Baltimore. She came out and flew to see him. He said, and this is what he said. He said she got on a plane and never spent one night on her farm in Baltimore. Apparently she had bought a farmhouse in Baltimore. And so this was only recently after she had just really met and started dating him, I suppose. And her daughter, Willow, says, oh, Mom, and I know how much you always wanted that type of life. And I think that it's really important for us not to miss this. I do believe that everything happens for a reason, right? And that we learn the lessons that we need to learn when we're ready and we're able to learn them. But for anybody, particularly those of you all who are on tonight who are single, right? Like that should be like, anybody heard that and was like, you just went to go see the brother and then you never went back home? Where do they do that at? And I know some of y'all are like, what? Because I mean,
he rescued me.
Me and my boo. We got together and we just started like being over each other's house all the time, after the second week of dating, and we ain't never really backed up off each other. I mean, real talk, that's how a lot of us do. But we have to call a thing, like Iyanla Vanzant says, let's call it what it is. You flew on the plane and you ain't never go back to your farmhouse. So right then and there, one of the themes that we see in this conversation is that Jada, and I love how boldly she owns it. She's able to say, I wasn't able to really have my own voice, right? That she had to mature, that she had to get to the place where she was able to speak up and have courage in her relationship to say no to this, put a boundary down. I ain't feeling that, versus always trying to, as she said, meet Will's desires, meet his expectations. So we already know that was one of the themes and one of the things that she had to learn in her relationship. But we see that thing manifest right off the top, because how you do that though? How you just like, and you ain't never go back? Like it's just because they was in love, they still together. No, we have to be able to see where we give up our power, where we give up proper pacing, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's around an idea, whether it's around taking the next leap on a concept, or even in terms of how you relate to another person. Proper pacing is important. And so that wasn't there. And I just really appreciated her sharing that. No, we got a lot of these.
That was significant. I know you got a lot written down.
Yeah. So I
can't even explain.
I know. It's like I just try to say we got a lot of these. Don't say nothing. Yeah. I'm sorry. No, I'm just saying we got a lot.
Now that pacing piece was really.
There was no pacing there.
It was really important.
Do y'all understand what we're saying?
And so I really want you all to really grasp and capture the essence of why pacing is important in a relationship. I mean, if you can imagine yourself right now, who out there does wind sprints? Who out there is in an athletic
I don't even know what those are.
Where you're physically inclined and you're doing some things and you're trying to run a mile, you're trying to run a 100-yard dash, you're trying to run 200, 400, or whatever it may be. If you don't pace yourself in that process, you'll be winded in the first 10 yards, 20 yards. So it's important in order for you to get through the entire race that you actually pace yourself. You control your breathing, you control your experience, and you control the process. And you make sure that, again, you're being mindful of how you're engaging it. And if you decide to move too quickly, then you end up coming up short. You end up not finishing the race because you're actually not pacing yourself.
And here comes the next piece that just really kind of, and I know y'all saw this. Come on, y'all had to see this and be like, wow, right? And maybe identified on some level that really spoke to the level of I don't know if this is a word, but I'm going to use it tonight, disempowerment, the level of not being empowered that Jada kind of went into her relationship with. She said, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want a wedding. Mom went to Will crying about me not wanting a wedding. And I was so pissed. And I went crying down the aisle. And even her mother acknowledged that, I was pretty selfish. I just, I wasn't going to have this experience with anybody else. And I can understand that as a mother, right? But she said, I went crying down the aisle. So the fact that she was so much in opposition to what she understood was happening, but was not able to have enough presence of mind to not just be in opposition and be upset about it, but to say no. To say no. And for many of us, we find ourselves in situations in our relationship, whether we're negotiating certain things or even dealing with certain prospects, where we are being pulled along and we are kind of going with it, but we are like this the whole way. And do we understand that we have the power to say no? It doesn't mean that they wouldn't have been together. It doesn't mean they wouldn't eventually got married, right? This has nothing to do with trying to discredit their relationship or even their divine attraction. And we have nothing to do with that. It just has to do with us being able to see, like, yo, if you're feeling like that, let this be a word of insight for you, listening to what she said. Like, you got to just be able to say, I can't. Well, why? I might not even fully know why. I just can't. You can choose to do differently than what's happening around you. You don't have to participate. And people get used to, particularly if we show up like that on an ongoing basis, people get used to kind of just being like, oh, okay, well, it's going to be okay. And kind of walking over you a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Kind of dismissing you, because you don't really make a real funk. You just be sad and just be mad, but you keep going. And so I want us to just understand that was deep for me, that you going down the aisle crying and ain't nobody. And then that also spoke to Will's lack of emotional connection or attachment or whatever you want to call it, because why would we still go through this, right? So that was what it was. So I thought that was really, really profound. I love, y'all, this is where I get into.
Well, hold up. So you asked the question though, and I'm gonna walk cautiously around my answer.
What's the question I asked?
Why would Will still pursue it? Okay. But we know that there are certain people who have grandiose ideas of relationships, how they should engage the world, how the world perceives them. We know that there's some people who operate from a position of uber control, where they have to control everything.
I mean, straight up, we see that in Will, don't we?
Yeah, and so I'm avoiding the clinical term, but we do see,
avoid that.
But we do see that. We see that, and as a result, I mean, some of his behaviors are characteristic of people who operate in that fashion, or who have been.
Now y'all like, what the hell y'all talking about?
I'm not.
I don't even know what specifically you're talking about.
Yeah. So.
Hey, Stephanie.
But yeah. So when you ask the question, like, why would he still move forward with that? Because he has to. He has to.
Because it's a part of the master plan.
Yes. If I decide that I want you, I got to get you. If I decide that I want you right now, you need to come right now. If I decide that I need to have you where I want you, you need to be there. You need to show up. And you need to actually be in position and be ready to receive me. And there's no option.
And you resonate with that a little bit? I
mean, I think a lot of men do.
Okay.
I think a lot of men do. I think a lot of men, again, we suffer from this psychosis, this belief that, in a society where we're dealing with patriarchy, that, I mean, women are supposed to show up and be a particular way. And so, but sometimes people, again, they do it in an uber fashion. Where again, it actually defines them. It defines them and makes them who they are. They can't operate outside of it. That's all that they know. Yeah. And as we see later on, he spoke in that first episode too, like, if you don't do as I say, if you want to do it the way you want to do it, bounce, dip, leave. There's no room for negotiate. There's no room for any type of.
You talking about when she cursed at him?
Yeah, when she cursed at him. Yeah.
Okay.
But then I'm not sure whether or not you put on there what he did in response to that.
So let's jump to that one really quickly.
Okay.
So again, just kind of looking at some of these behaviors that where one partner is particularly controlling, and you have to negotiate that. And typically, partners who do have a controlling streak, and it doesn't have to be. It's not necessarily that you're beating somebody and you're like, "Come here, woman." It doesn't have to be all that, right? But that they have a certain kind of rigidity to how they think. and how they function. And when you're not in compliance with that, it creates a lot of internal turmoil for them, which then you get back, right, in terms of pushback, because you're not with the plan.
Yeah.
But what my husband is talking about is another spot in the interview where they said they had friends over and there was a function or what have you, and I think he was holding a baby, something like that. And Jada turned around and said, "Will, shut the blank up," right? Mm-hmm. And he was like, "What? Like, did she really just, cussing me in front of company?" And so he hit her on the head with a newspaper. Mm-hmm. And I did. I mean, did any of y'all, when y'all heard that, did anybody say, "Really though? We just gonna skip past that part?" And then he moved into describing how he asked her to come back to the bedroom, and he said, "Look, we're not going to roll like that, because I grew up in a house," as he very courageously shares, "I grew up in a house where I saw my father punch my mother, but you just went back and told her how you saw your father punch your mother after you went boop like that." Well, I brace myself and close my eyes. Boop, right? but you didn't punch her, right? But you still did something, right, that had that same kind of energy towards it. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing that we know, and this is not a Will thing or a Jada thing, this is a people thing. Whatever you come from, you embody in some way, and you take into your gut some way. And so you are forever, I shouldn't say forever, I feel like that for me sometimes, but you are then challenged within your adulthood, if you're coming into consciousness and you're awake about who you are, who you're not, and what's happened in your lifetime. You're challenged to not repeat some of that stuff. Mm-hmm. You're challenged to not find yourself also bopping somebody upside the head. And so I thought that was very interesting. Mm-hmm. And so that controlling piece was really big. And then look, let's just go ahead and jump to Jada and the fact that her mother, Adrienne, that's her name, right?
I believe so.
That her mom, in much respect, I work with women who are survivors of domestic violence, but her mom is a survivor of domestic violence and has that in her history. And so now her daughter comes forward and finds herself in a relationship where every generation, the challenge is to get better and to grow better and to go further, right? And so it may not be that dynamic going on, but she is trying to find her voice. And so she's further along perhaps, but there's still a dynamic of what? Power and control, because that's what happens in those kinds of relationships. Mm-hmm. And then he saw his father beat his mother, and so he wants to be the family man and, kind of have this picture of what his family's going to be about. And he talked about that in terms of the perception that he needed to go out to the world. And it ain't really just about the world, the perception he needed for himself. Yeah. You understand? What he needed to feel like he's okay and like he's doing all right. And that obsession with that picture, it helps me not to actually deal with the bullshit that's inside of me that I need to tango with. And so we all do that in some way. We all have some things that we kind of fantasize about or that we kind of romanticize and idealize. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Romanticize, fantasize, idealize, y'all say that? And so those things become bigger than life for us. And we don't recognize that we're really in some way oftentimes avoiding our stuff. Yeah. We're avoiding. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So can I move to the next one?
You can.
I can, but before we do that, get some of these comments, because y'all are dropping some good comments.
And please share, y'all. Please like, please comment, and if you haven't already shared, please share. Mm-hmm. We got some good stuff tonight. Mm-hmm. All right, Shirley, she says that they were both dishonoring the relationship. Okay. I mean, I definitely see how that could be valid.
Oh, and you said that was before they got married. Yeah, that probably was. Mm-hmm.
London, I think it's London Darren or London Duran. He or she says, I think in order for Will to have got to the place of becoming comfortable with being open and transparent, we saw him initially trying to control the narrative, then the wall came down. So that's what I was speaking about in the beginning,
mm-hmm.
Just that.
That's so good, London.
But again, I give him kudos because I think that he eventually arrived in a place where he was able to be transparent and vulnerable. And I think even at times toward the latter part of the interview, he was trying to connect with Jada. Mm-hmm. But I felt like Jada really wasn't in that space to really receive.
She received it.
It was a
I think she received it.
It was a that's cute. But I think he was really trying to make it a moment.
Oh,
and that could have been him trying to control it too.
Really, boo?
Trying to get
that man some credit.
Trying to get this picturesque moment on the Red Table Talk. What other comments we got here?
Well, okay. You look for
so Brian, bro, he says that is where she wanted to be. So when you say that, you know, he went with Will versus going to the farm, he says that is where she wanted to be. The farmhouse was not important at that time.
So I agree. I think that.
But after going through it, it came back to her.
Yeah.
And you know, she had to center herself at that place where she left.
So let's lift that up, that comment, Brian. That was good, because let's just think about the whole dynamic. This is not really about blame or judgment. This is really about being able to see ourselves and see other people and their relationships and see the issues clearly, so that we can be able to heal. I mean, really, that's really what this is about. And so you're right. She did want to be there. See, we could, and oftentimes what people do, I see this oftentimes, particularly in domestic violence kinds of scenarios, they make the perpetrator the bad guy and the person who's getting beat on the victim. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the piece is this. I'm not in any way saying Will is an abuser and Jada's a victim or whatever, right? But if there is someone who is controlling the dynamic in some way, right, then people don't like this. And some of y'all might start being like, putting mad faces when I say this. People don't like this. If someone is controlling a process, and if someone is taking authority in some way, they can only do that. If what?
I'm sorry, I was reading the comments. I apologize.
They can only do it if we allow it. Mm-hmm. I want you to marinate, meditate on that. That doesn't mean that we are making the person who is receiving the negative energy or whatever responsible. It doesn't mean we're blaming the victim and like, oh, you just need to do better and stop letting them treat you like that. But ultimately, you know, there's always two people in a relationship, and what you do and what you don't do informs your partner or the person you're dealing with about what can happen and what will not happen, right? So I'm taking what you're saying, Brian, in terms of, well, she wanted to be there. Look, I say everything that happens to us, mm-hmm. everything that goes down, every choice we make and every choice we don't make, we think we ain't making, but we're still making choices, needs to happen in order for us to get the lessons that we need to get. But it is a two-way street, and we're all participating in whatever dynamic we find ourselves. Now, this one right here, y'all, I want to hear what y'all have to say about this. They said, when they started talking about communication, and they started talking about how they, never raised their voices. Mm-hmm. Did y'all hear that? We never raised our voices. From that moment, when they had that moment and, there was a bop on the head and they had a conversation, he said, we can't roll like that no more. They never raised their voices. They never used profanity from that point on. And Will said, I had stock things that I would say if I was really upset so that I would not go there. And we often, in our counseling sessions, talk to people about being able to have a go-to strategy. So to me, it sounds like on some level, they got some education around, what can you do instead of fuss each other out? So I respect that. And I love that he said that, and they demonstrated like there's some things that we can do so that we can get a timeout so we can go work on ourselves and then come back. We ain't got to have it all out right here. And that's what we tell people all the time in terms of communication. Yep. And in terms of dealing with these difficult things. You ain't got to have it all out right now. You can admit that I'm mad as hell. I just ain't mature in this area right now. I'm in my feelings and I need a timeout. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. And that's actually essential. But what I did find a little interesting is he said, you ain't never raised your voice. There ain't nothing. And it's possible. Mm-hmm. It's possible. Okay, somebody said he said they went to communication classes. I believe it because, thank you, Ramis. That sounded like a communication tactic or tool. So I believe that. But it's probably maybe a little bit hard for me when I hear like, they ain't never raised their voices. Brian said BS. I don't know if that's what if you're saying that to what I'm saying right now. Because maybe that's hard for me because, I got work on keeping my voice down, like real hard. But then I would think about you. You're not a voice raiser. You're really just not.
But I mean, to say that I've never raised my voice.
And they never use no profanity. That's possible.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I just lift this up, y'all, because I said this before, when we have couples come to us and they sit in front of us and they say, we just have some things we want to work through, but we really don't argue. Mm-hmm. That's just not really our issue. We know how to talk to each other. They present like we're just very, we're just mature like that, and we know how to talk and we know how to respect each other, and so we just have it together like that. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting there like, okay, mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because I know I got it going on, and I know I'll be having some choice words that I have to be Lord help me, right? So there's something that's kind of about that.
Yeah, Jada said she held a lot of stuff in. And somebody else said that there was a lot of contradictions in what they shared. So again, one thing that I do want to lift up though is that it could have been
a lot of contradictions. Say what those were. Go ahead.
That's from over here on YouTube.
Oh, on YouTube.
But it could have been a strategy that they did learn if they did take
I think they did
classes but it doesn't mean too that they didn't cross over the line. So I think that it would be ridiculous to think that if they got some skills that they never crossed the line. So I'm not saying cross the line to where it became physical.
Yeah, but just was human.
What's human is to become upset. You're not going to always walk away. You may raise your voice. You may express your frustration, your anger. You may wild out. And he did say later on that he kind of like flipped out in front of Willow. And so he had to double back and apologize to her and based off of what he did. And so again, like Ronice was saying, like Jada held a lot of stuff in.
And that's the thing that I thought about, and I'm glad you said that, is that if we're trying to do it right, if you get caught up in doing it right all the time, we see images before us and examples before us, and we're like, oh, wow. And you want to take all the notes and go to the classes and kind of, take on what you see out in the world, whether it be in other couples, people at the church, people in the community, people, celebrities, whatever, right? I want to get that right. I want to do that. If you become consumed with that, then you are not consumed with authenticity. And more than anything, you can be learning the skills, you can be getting the tools, but you have to be yourself. You got to be real. Because if you holding stuff in, because you think, oh, I got to make sure that I don't blow up on him, so I'll just keep that to myself. Well, then now what does she talk about? Resentment builds, right? And you are reinforcing in yourself anything you do repeatedly. And you do it over and over and over again, then what your brain learns is this is the way we go. This is what I need to do. And so if you get used to popping off, you're going to be a pop off master. Like he said, and I love that Will said that. He said, you start calling people out their names, your partner out their name, it's going to be real easy for them to be a bleep, 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 over and over again. So it's the same thing with keeping quiet. If that's your go-to to just, and you dress it up and say, I'm being mature about this. Well, there's no value to that. There's no value to that because that's not pushing the relationship forward. So I thought that was really, really important.
And Misha over here, she lifts up another piece. And I think you actually were about to talk about that, but Misha says the same thing. She cried for 45 days.
I know, y'all. Has anybody ever, did anybody resonate with that? I cried. No, first of all, second of all, and third of all, how about she said this, Misha? She said, he said she cried for 45 days straight. And she said, you missed some days. You know what I'm saying? She said, you missed some days. Like it was longer than that. I heard him say somewhere that, I did not learn or I didn't know how to connect. When I heard that, I said, we could drop everything else. We could drop everything else off the table and we could sum up their courage and sharing their story in those words. Yeah. I didn't learn how to connect because if he were connecting, right, then he would know, oh my goodness, like I'm missing it. I'm missing it. And he would understand that even if I don't understand it, there's something that I've got to get here. And he wasn't able to do that because he was so consumed with what doing it right look like, not just for his family and for his relationship, but before himself and for the world and all of that. So that thing is really, really important. I really wanted to lift this up, y'all. Did y'all hear Jada say at times, and her mother kind of said, well, did you ever feel like Jada was ungrateful? I felt it was a little tinge of like, because, I'm feeling all this. And she was really, hearing them, but like, you got a good life, girl, right? Yeah. And how many times do we see that? I mean, sometimes I'm looking at people like, really? You understand some of the stuff out here the couples is dealing with, and you mad over that? That's my real talk thought. But every person's experience, absolutely, is valid and uniquely their own. And so Jada says, sometimes I felt like, am I being ungrateful? And oftentimes we doubt ourselves, and we all know, like, should I even be feeling this? Remember this, y'all. We've said it again, time and time again. And that is that feelings are not right or wrong. Feelings are what they are. They inform us as to where we are. And the quicker you can get in touch with what you are feeling and the more honest you're able to be, not just with yourself, but with your partner, then the quicker you can get back to a place of peace in your relationship. Because if your partner doesn't know, It's not about whether it's right or wrong. Well, you're just being ungrateful. But this is what I'm feeling. If I don't feel seen, if I don't feel heard, it's not necessarily that it's your partner's fault. It's that they are missing something, right? And they're not able to pick up on something because perhaps it is something that you're carrying with you from your past, and you need some attention around that. You need some validation, some confirmation around that, and they're not getting that. It is only your responsibility to share that with them. And you can only do that if you first know it yourself. So that connection piece, he said, I didn't know how to connect with her. If you don't focus on nothing else they said, oh, I love this and I love that, connection. That is the key. Forget a tool, forget a this, a strategy, a phrase, because we have, how many people have we sat with? And we're coaching people through the conversation. And my husband is telling the brother what to say. And I'm saying, and what do you say this? Sometimes we're telling them specifically what to say. Other times we're asking them to share what they feel. And there are times when it is so void of connection, so void of emotion that it's not coming across. We got to stop it because we need to break through some of this. We need to break through some of these defenses so we can get y'all to connect, because it's not about words and strategies. It's about connection.
It's about connection. It's about approach. It's about your intention. And so, you know, if I can sense by looking at you in person or when we're doing our virtual sessions that you're not attuned, that you're not connecting in with your partner, then again, like my wife just mentioned, what we end up doing is we stop the session and we have you repeat, have you rinse and repeat, do that thing over again to make sure that you get it right. Because again, you can soften yourself. You can change your approach. You can change the course of the relationship just by shifting your energy and how you approach your spouse. So again, you want to make sure you're being intentional about how you engage them.
Yes, indeed. All right, y'all. This is the next one right here. Again, if you're just joining us, I am Iyanla Ma'at. This is my fabulous husband, Ayize Ma'at. I'm hot. I got this daggone turtleneck on. That's what it is. But if you're just joining us, we're talking about Will and Jada and the recent Red Table Talk, which is very, very popular. And we just kind of going through some of that. So drop your comments and your thoughts about that. Please share this video and like it so that we can share the energy and share the information. So this, y'all, Will, go ahead, baby.
You mentioned the whole abuse piece and them being survivors of both.
Oh, you mean
Jada's mom being a survivor of DV and Will's father abusing his mom. You know, and so when you mentioned that, one thing that you didn't lift up that Jada's mom also experienced was substance use.
Yes, that's
and
right.
That's a critical piece, y'all, because that definitely informs and impacts how you engage in relationships, intimate partner relationships as you get older. And so my wife and I, we've even in our relationship, you know, we've been.
I don't know what you're about to say about substance use in our relationship.
No, I mean, in terms of just our dynamic, you've purchased books, ACOH. ACOA, I'm sorry. Why did I say ACOA?
I don't know.
ACOA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. And what it references is the impact.
I am an adult child of an alcoholic.
What it references is the impact that type of dynamic has on the child and how they grow up and carry some of that baggage into their relationship. And so again, a lot of times it might put in place a cycle of codependency where you're looking for certain things, you're needing certain things. It might also push you into a space where you distance yourself from relationships. You put up a very thick wall. And so all of that's present in Will and Jada's relationship because, again, her mom was a substance user.
And so the thing to know, if particularly if you've had this dynamic or you know of someone who has this dynamic, really quickly is that if you have been in a family where there has been substance abuse, then in some way, shape, or form, you or other people in the family become caretakers of that person. Whether you know like when to pick up their stuff and put it away because they left it out last night, not to talk too loud, don't invite people over at this time. They called off work, so you know to call and say, oh, they were in an accident, right? There's different things that we do to accommodate and become caretakers. And that gets perfected into a place of codependence. And so if we think about that, that's perfect, Ayize, that if Jada experienced that in any way in terms of her own mother, then codependence is learned. It's a learned behavior. Most codependent people do not do that just because they just start doing it. They learn it from somewhere else or from a dynamic in their family. And so, then here comes Will with all these needs and all these different things that he needs to be happy. And so she's trying to figure out how to make him happy, make him happy, which is why I was so radical and so funky, great, just beautiful when she said, I turned 40. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? This is Jada, not mommy, not wifey, right? This is me. I was like, oh, right? Because that's a huge place to get to. And just so y'all understand, that's a place you have to get to several times. You should have several of those moments. There is no place of arrival. We all have these moments of I'm not carrying that no more. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not keeping quiet anymore. And we have to do it again and again in various ways, as we shed the things that we need to shed in our lives. So I see Remy saying that he was feeling as though she was ungrateful because he was doing everything for his ego and it had nothing to do with her. And Carrington says, money does not make people happy. And your boy Carrington said, not your boy, Will said, if there was one individual, I wrote this down, one individual most poisonous aspect of our relationship, it would be this, that I thought that money and winning made a good relationship. So I want us to really park here for a second, because most of you, anybody who's rolling with us, considers themselves to be a little more evolved and, higher thinking and educated and emotionally intelligent and so forth. And so you're like, yeah, those people over there do that. We don't do that. But see, we can know that it's not about money. It's not about winning, right? It's not about, accomplishing. I don't know what's going on with our camera on Facebook. Bear with us. It's not about achieving. We can know that intellectually. But this country, this world, oh my gosh, this society, everything that we see around us is all about winning. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because, don't you feel good when you take that picture and, hey, I'm here and I'm getting ready to do thus and so. Here's my family. Yeah. Here's my award. Here's my degree. Here's my next accomplishment. Look what I have done. And isn't this in some way kind of built into us from the time we're a child? We're giving praise to our children. We give praise to our 2-year-old and tell him how smart he is, and to all of our children. And then I try to come back and say, but it's not just about your grades. It's not, if you do the best you can, then it's fine. If you don't get all good grades, it's fine. It's all right, right? Because I don't want them to get messed up with it and become consumed. And then this one here saying, I'm about to check their grades right now. You need to make sure you don't bring nothing up in here except for no A's and B's. If you get a C in here, then something's getting taken. So we might know better, but that doesn't mean that that we are in a society and that we are in communities where we're being having that reinforced. Because everybody's talking about what they're doing and how they flowing and what I got going on. And so I just really respect the fact that he said, I thought money and winning, man, I had a good relationship, right? Well, how many of y'all look around? We talk about kids and they're comparing what shoes you got on, and you know what I mean? And what do you got? What game do you got? Right. But what do we do as adults? Is she married? Is he married? Where's their wife? Oh, look at their car. What kind of house? Where their house at? Where they live? Right? Yeah. What bag? Oh, they so cute. They fly. Right. All of that stuff. And that's why we're so in love with the Wills and Jadas of the world. But we have to remember that money and success in the exterior world, as he talked about, does nothing for the soul. That's why we have superstars who kill themselves dead, right? At the top of the world, and they're isolated. Some of you may know.
That's why Floyd getting back in the ring.
Because he need the engagement, right? He
probably need the money too.
He got a lot of money.
I don't know.
But I want to share this though, for those of you who have connected with us and know that our oldest son is in a movie that will be coming out in May of next year on Netflix, Central Park 5. He is playing the character of Kevin Richardson, and it's been an amazing experience. That's a whole nother live stream in and of itself. But I just want to bring this point in. We've talked with several people who have said to us, look, and they said straight up, this right here, this industry can F you up. It can F you up, man. I ain't say F, right? But they said it can really mess you up. And so make sure that y'all keep him grounded. Make sure you keep him involved in his regular activities. Don't let him get caught up. And when I, heard, thank you so much, sis. When I heard them saying that, I thought to myself, it's It's not a little kid thing. It can do that for any of us. Yeah. And it's not the industry. It's the world, because wherever you find yourself, whatever bubble you're in, right? We're trying to be validated and be seen, because everybody wants to be heard. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to matter. And if you say that, I don't really need all that, then you're lying, or you're just, you're not conscious of it. Everybody wants to matter on some level. And so I think it's really important for us to know that how we create mattering in our relationships. It cannot be based on how much are you making. It cannot be based on what are you bringing in the house, right? Those are concrete things that we do need to have a sense of, but we have to say, well, what matters to us when I'm old and gray and when I'm sitting in my chair? What do I want? What do I want my children? What do I want the world to say, about me and kind of how I roll? What do I want people to say they felt when they were around me? What do I want my partner, to be able to say they were able to witness because of my unfolding, and they were able to be released into because of how I showed up for them? What do I really want? Those things have nothing to do with the exterior world and how the exterior world comes in claps because we look so pretty and we got it going on. And so you have to define those things for yourself. What matters? That I spend time. That's what Jada says. I want some intimate time. Mm-hmm. I want some time with you. We hear that a lot of times. One person just wants to be moving. The other person says, sit your ass down. Mm-hmm. So I can get with you, so I can be with you, so I can feel you. You understand? So I thought that was so profound that he was able to, say that that's what he thought. Mm-hmm. And she sat there and she tried to figure out how to meet that. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, she was losing herself through the entire process.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of transparency and honesty in that conversation that they had. And I appreciate both of them for really being courageous enough to put their stuff on the table, to share where they came up short, and to share the areas of growth that were required in order for them to mature in their relationship and in themselves individually. And so, again, I applaud both of them. One thing I do want to lift up, though, is that, in the second part, Will said something like, I had to let you go. They
said they broke up. They broke up in their marriage. I thought that was dope.
But even prior to that, you thought that was dope?
Yes. You ain't like that. He said that it was either her or him, said they had to break up, and he said that was more painful than divorce. They broke up in their marriage. What did they break up? They broke up these expectations that they kept trying to figure out how to feel for each other, and they broke up these unhealthy patterns and all this stuff. They just sat there unfulfilled, and you know how it feels when you want your man to look at you, and I want you to talk to me, come over here and make me feel better. And they in the thing, and they just walking around going on about their business. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? And they not giving you what you need. I can get so low because Ayize's in the mood, and I just feel like, and I be like, I gotta work on that. Like, this man shouldn't be able to affect me like that. I gotta work on that. Like, if he's doing his thing and he going through his thing, it is what it is. But when you break up, I'm not looking to you. I'm not leaning on you to make me feel good about myself, to help pull me out. Jada said, I used to think that if you're not needed, then the person don't really love you. Mm-hmm. If you don't need me, you don't love me. Mm-hmm. And how revolutionary is that? I said, I want to high five her. And you don't like, I know you don't like that, because I know you're a person. I know how you think about some of these things. You might not like it, but I'm gonna just drop it anyway. The goal should be to not, you don't need to have the other person.
Why do you say that? Say that.
Because before we've had conversations and you'd be looking at me, you might just be in your feelings in the moment, but you'd be looking at me like, shut up. When I say that, like, because we talked about, like, how you ever talk about with your partner, like, if I die, and I'll tell you, like, well, if I was to die and I die first and you still got a lot of life in you, I want you to be happy. Mm-hmm. And I don't want you to ever feel like you can't, eventually, you better not do that joint right away, but eventually find somebody. Mm-hmm. And you're like, what the hell? He would get like, why are you okay with that? And
that's
so,
a different topic. Right. So in terms of the whole need piece, I'm in agreement with you there.
But that those two things overlap in some way, because in some way it says I can be the only one who can satisfy you. Right. And needing someone really intersects with that, because then that means that if I don't get you and I don't need you, then I'm left, by myself, broken up, and I can't maintain. The reality is that the goal of marriage and the goal of relationships is to be able to build each other up and to give each other what we need so that we can be liberated, so that we can be the fullest expression of ourselves. And this is the thing. I'm gonna just go ahead and get to it. This is why I was so disturbed.
Well,
can I say this piece?
I mean, can we park on this plane for a second?
Oh, you want to parlay here?
Yeah, I do.
This turtleneck is not the right choice for the night. Jesus. Okay, go ahead.
I want to park here because you say that I would have an issue with.
Why you gotta make? Okay, maybe.
No, because we're gonna have a conversation about this real quick. So what I said is that I'm in agreement with you when it comes to that. But what I also feel too is that there's room for both. There's room for you to actually need somebody, and there's room for you to actually want somebody too. And so what I would say is that by the definition of the term need, like I would say wholeheartedly, like I don't need you per se, but I think that it's also okay for you to be in a space where you do need somebody. It's okay because sometimes we can't do things on our own. So to want somebody is one thing, but depending upon the space that you're in, you may actually need somebody. And I don't think it's a bad thing categorically and unequivocally for you to say that I never need anybody.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with you in some way, but
so you may need your partner in your relationship, and I think that that's okay. But I'm saying, like,
let's unpack that though.
Okay.
Do I need my partner or do I need acceptance? Do I need comfort? Do I need to be nurtured? Do I need to be seen and heard? And my partner, oftentimes we're looking to our partner to give us that. I need you to give me that. I need that. But here's the thing. Hold on, let me finish. If I need to be, for example, accepted, and I need somebody just to validate me, right? And I'm saying, I need you to hear me. I need you to tell me that you understand, right? That's the kind of stuff we say to our booze, right? I need you to do this, right? Fundamentally, and I've been there, I said it, you know what I'm saying? That's probably say it tomorrow, you know what I mean? I need you to get me, right? So I get it on some level, but on a baseline level, if you don't give me that, and if you are not able to give me that for whatever reason, then I should be able to, and the goal should be, I should be able to, but the goal should be for me to get to the point where I'm able to say what I need is acceptance, and he's not giving it to me, and this person ain't giving it to me or whatever, and I got to give it to myself. Yeah, and so it's not that I need Ayize. What I need is what he's able to give me, and I don't have to look outside of myself to get it from nowhere. I don't have to look outside of myself. I can get it from within, no matter how challenging and difficult that it is. And so I'm not trying to dismiss or diminish the natural wiring that we all have to be connected to other people and to be in relationship, right? Like we say that all the time. You can keep trying to do this thing by yourself, but you need to understand that you are wired. You are going against your nature to not want to be with another person and connect in with another person in relationship, whether it's, friends or, intimate partner or whatever. So I'm not trying to diminish that. What I'm saying is that fundamentally, it's either one or the other. Either you can understand that you're able to get what you need and create what you need for yourself or not. And if I create what I need for myself, it doesn't mean I do that independent of anybody else. It means I can utilize other people in that as I create my community, as I create like-minded circles, as I create connection. But if I cannot get it from you, husband, then maybe I need to get it from somewhere else. Because how many times do we talk about the fact that oftentimes as women, we're looking to our husbands to give us things that they are not wired and built to give us in the first place. That I need to take a risk and stop staying in my little safe circle and go and connect with another sister who'll be able to see me, and speak light to me in a way he never could, because she's built for that and he's not. And so I'm just challenging us because I liked what she said about that. And I know that it's something that people struggle with on some level because it destroys the romance. It does. Like, no, but I need you. I still do that, but I understand. I'm challenging myself to go deeper and understand that fundamentally, when I feel like you failed me on some level emotionally, that it doesn't have to stop there. That Iyanna, I don't have to give you that much power. And I love you and you're powerful in my life, but I don't have to give you that much power. I can get my own back. And that's the challenge for myself. I don't have to need you to do it. And I have needed you to do it. I needed you to do it because my daddy didn't do it. And until I deal with myself and what I need to do for myself, then I'll be forever stuck in somebody else having to fulfill me. And, you know, at the end of the day, no, it's on me and God. And he uses you sometimes, and then other times he uses other people. But I get to decide. That's all I'm saying. I'm scared about how you're looking at me right now. Yeah, I saw some hearts. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they feeling what you're saying.
Okay.
They really are. But I mean, I really.
That's what I'm saying. You be kind of like.
It's not that I'm hating on that perspective. It's not that I'm hating on that perspective. I mean, I agree with it, but at the same time, too, I think that to take that approach exclusively, to some degree, comes from a protective position.
Oh.
And so again, to say, what does it mean to say you need somebody? To say that you need somebody means that you actually embrace vulnerability and you make them, to some degree, you give your emotions over to them. And so that's a painful prospect and a proposition for you to subject yourself to somebody else's whim. So to need is to be vulnerable. And so all I'm saying is that when you say I don't need you,
I would never say that. Though.
I get it philosophically, but at the same time too, I just want to lift up that can be a protective measure preventing you from experiencing vulnerability in your relationship.
Right.
And so to need somebody, I think it can exist. I'm saying you shouldn't be doing it to the extreme, but it can exist. But ultimately, I mean, you should be able to provide what it is for yourself. Yin and yang. I think that there's balance in all things. People like for things to be black and white, but usually they're not. You know, usually they're not. But I think there's room for both. I want to tell y'all why I was disturbed before we get ready to close this evening. Before we get ready to close this, I felt like I was Prince right there. So this evening, I was disturbed, y'all. And I want y'all to tell me, you know what I'm saying? Keep it real. Keep it 100 with me. I was deeply disturbed because at a certain point. So Nika, she says she understands me, but she also says that, I mean, she gets where you're coming from. And so, I get it.
Yes. And that's what it is. It's about not making that person totally responsible for your joy. Yeah. Because then you stay trapped looking for somebody else to give you what you got to get for yourself.
That vulnerability and strength can coexist. There's balance.
Oh, yes. That's good, London. That's good. Brian, I see you, my brother. So here's why I was disturbed, y'all. I was disturbed because I thought they were dropping some really, really good nuggets. I think that the best way for us to learn as people is just for people to tell their truth. I don't even need you to tell me a bunch of points. Just talk to me about what you've been through. And I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? And so when people throw a little shade like you were doing initially, like, what they doing? I'm like, they telling their truth. I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? So I was liking it. And I still love that they did that. Here's the thing though, y'all. What at some point or different points towards the latter part of the second episode with the two of them, what Jada talked about is she talked about not liking the conventional notion of marriage, not wanting to be married, right? We talked about that early on, that they had to destroy their relationship, destroy their marriage in order to create what they now call a life partnership. And they talked about this life partnership in such a powerful way that, you know, there's nothing that will separate us or keep me from him or keep him from me. We are in this. It never dawned on us, right, to divorce, even when we were going through the roughest times. And I was like really feeling them, right? Because I think about you and I think it never dawned on me, right? Like it's not. I mean, one time I had to get you straight. Like, well, I'm not. Why do you think? Are you scared I'm gonna roll out? That's not happening, right? And so I was feeling them on that. But what she said is, I realized I had to create something that worked for me because what it means to be a wife, and the expectations around that and all that, like I wasn't feeling that, and I had to get somewhere else on that. And so as I heard them describe this newfound relationship, and as I heard them talk about this newfound connection and ability to truly and authentically be themselves, and what I also heard from them is their willingness to accept each other. In terms of where they were. What I heard was a description of marriage. I did not like, and I'm going to challenge this notion, and I want to see what you all think here. I didn't like the fact that what they described in terms of their process and where they came from and what they have been through and where they're going. That's right. That's what she said, Sierra. I'm not wife material. I'm a ride or die chick. What is a wife other than a ride or die chick? Hello. You know what I'm saying? Like everything that I was hearing from them, you know what I'm saying, was resonating with me being through and like breaking up in the, relationship and all that, like to rebuild it. You know what I'm saying? we've been through some stuff. Mm-hmm. You understand? And so I don't perceive that to be anything other than marriage. And so the thing that I want to lift up for your consideration this evening is this.
Hold up, that's not all she said though. Let me share some more.
I don't want to lose my thought, and then you can share. Okay. I don't want to lose my thought. What I want to lift up for your consideration though is that oftentimes what we do, we make institutions responsible for humans. And so marriage is an institution. It is a concept, and it is a spiritual, in my opinion, connection and construct that brings two people together to help one another become the best of what they're able to be in a quick nutshell. Okay. And so when we say, you know, these expectations that are tied to being a wife and, you know, these conventional kind of things that kind of oppress me and I got to like fit into this box. Well, I do want to acknowledge that historically, whether because marriage traditionally in this country has been attached to religion and spirituality, and has been attached to certain expectations that, you know, when people want to get married, they typically go to church. They may go to, you know, what do you call that when you go down to the Justice of Peace, right? Whatever. But, you know, they're usually a Bible somewhere. It is traditionally attached to a religious foundation. Mm-hmm. And so I do want to acknowledge
foundation, but religious, you say religion, spirituality, and I would say property as well.
Yeah, all of these things. But so I'm gonna let you get. I know you want to preach. But what I'm saying is that I know that there's baggage that comes with marriage. But this is the same thing I say to people who say, like, I don't, you know, because I left the church for a while back in the day. My parents are pastors, and I left. I was like, I'm done. I don't know about all this. You know what I'm saying? Let me go investigate some other people outside of Jesus. Let me see what else is out here, right? So I did that piece, and there was a period of time where the church for me became the thing that I was like, that's not for me. But church is made up of people. Right. A marriage is made up of people. There's an institution. And at the end of the day, you've got to recognize that it is the people who make up what you experience in that context, in that institution. Mm. So we can't, it's not something outside of, it's not something that's sitting over here and like, yeah, I don't want that from me. Why is it that we're making it something separate and apart from what they say that they experience? I don't understand that. Mm-hmm. I don't think that that's helpful. I don't think that that's healthy. I need y'all to understand that ultimately, let me tell you real quick about a conversation I had with, there's the new Black Panther Party. I remember the Black Panthers. There's the new Black Panther Party. I don't know how active they are today, but I know when I was in my 20s, you know, in the DC area, they were alive and kicking. I remember talking to one of the elders in the group. She was like 80 something years old, and she was a public school teacher. And so people in the group, you know, they considered themselves to be, you know, for the people and all that kind of stuff. They were like, why are you dealing with this public school system? They're not for our kids. They're not for our people. And why are you even dealing with them? You need to kind of go to an independent, you know, African school or what have you. And you ain't got to deal with all that. And she said, because that's where our people are. That's where our babies are. That's where they are. They're in the school. They're in the public school system. So if that's where they are, if I abandon it and if I leave it, mm-hmm. then what does that say about me? And so what I'm saying to us as not just the people, as African Americans, as the primary group that watches us and deals with us, but also to us as a country, is that if we just abandon marriage and say, oh, that's not for me, can you transform it? Can it be what you want it to be? It doesn't have to be this conventional anything that oppresses you. You can define it. What we tell couples all the time is there are certain parameters and there are certain constructs within marriage that are shown through research to be helpful and to be the way to go in terms of how you operate. But fundamentally and ultimately, how me and Aize flow in our flow may be completely different mm-hmm. than how you flow. And yet it's all called marriage, because what really makes a marriage is what they talked about. It's mm-hmm. life partnership. It's being able to be ride or die. It's being able to know that you are there for that person no matter what. That I can come back and I can say that I'm sorry, that I can mess up the next day, that you know I got all my stuff, that you won't use it against me. That when you use it against me because you're human, that you'll come back and then we'll try to connect on that and push things to the next level and move to a place of compassion. It's all of that. It's friendship. You know, it's acceptance. It's all of these things. That's what marriage is. What I heard them talk about was a marriage. Life partnership, AKA, it's the same thing. So I thought it was a disservice to say that what we're creating is something different from what marriage is. Because what we are here for, what we're doing, we're trying to help people understand that this is what marriage is. What you're doing when you're trying to take your relationship to the next level, that's what marriage is. When you go through the rough parts and it's all a mess and you're still in there and you're trying to figure this thing out, that's what marriage is. That is. And it's all good. So I'm just kind of a little teed about marriage getting a bad rap, because we don't have to take the constriction. We don't have to take the oppression that people often have felt attached to that institution. Again, are you going to be in power? Are you going to take responsibility for what you create? Or are you just kind of looking at this institution saying, what I got to do to be a part of that? That's not for me. That's not what I'm doing. This is what I'm creating. Yeah. This is what it is for me. Right. And as long as I am in communication with my partner and I am committed and I am transparent and I am vulnerable and I'm working towards those things and I have connection, commitment, what do we say? Connection and courage. Those are the ingredients that I must have. Everything else is kind of sort of negotiable. I know this is gonna do. Y'all gonna be like, what? How y'all roll with it? How y'all do it? Commitment, connection, and courage. That's what it is. So what they described was a marriage. Yeah. And I just want to represent for marriage tonight, y'all. Yes. Indeed. All right, guys. You turned that music on.
I did. I was actually gonna say something, but you was dropping that thing, bro.
I got in my feelings. I'm like feeling them. They're like, yeah. So what we have is a life partnership. We have something different.
And the way I'm gonna go ahead and share really quickly. The way she described that was she said that we devoted ourselves to each other in a spiritual sense.
Oh, what is that other than marriage?
That's marriage.
A spiritual commitment and connection.
She said there's nothing that can happen where we can't love each other through it. That's marriage.
Is that not marriage?
That's marriage. Mm-hmm. She said we're committed no matter what. What's that?
Marriage.
That's marriage.
Yeah.
She said, I'm your ride or die. What's that?
That's your wife.
Yeah.
And I'm married.
That's marriage. Yeah. She said an unbreakable bond, friendship, and connection.
You're my best friend. And how many of y'all, your boo is your best friend? That's marriage.
That's marriage.
Yes.
That's really marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, y'all, we hope that this has been of help for you tonight, for us just to process this. We opened it up a little bit and dissected it a little bit, but I think they did all of the opening up, and I really love that they did that. Yeah. And so if there's nothing else that we could all learn from watching them, it's just that courage and vulnerability always gets you to greatness. Mm-hmm. Courage and vulnerability. It always gets you to greatness. Mm-hmm. I don't care what the path looks like, but when you're able to do that, then that means you're in a state of surrender. Mm-hmm. And when you're in a state of surrender, then and only then can you really be open to true transformation and change. Mm-hmm. We hope again that this has been good for you. We really appreciate all of you. Until next time, y'all, stop playing
and start pushing.
Start pushing. Bye.
All right, peace, y'all.